Indiana got their internet turned back on because Trayce Jackson-Davis is one of a handful of interesting college basketball players who have announced they are withdrawing from the NBA draft. So Indiana should be good next season, right? And Trayce should be preseason All-American?
Got to be. He'll be on my preseason. I was in on Trayce going into last season as borderline top 5 player in the country. I'll be there again. Here are the numbers. 18.3 points, 8.1 rebounds, 1.9 assists, shot 59% from the field, and played 35 games, 32 and change minutes per game overall. Indiana had an up and down season, 21-14, but they made the tournament. They did beat Wyoming before losing to St. Mary's. Obviously, they got there via the first 4. But Trayce was.
What was the final score in that St. Mary's game?
Oh boy,
it knocked the internet out, Jack.
82-53.
Oh my God!
How is it like? What other games were happening? I have very little memory of. Now I know I watched it because I was in Greenville and my games were Friday, Sunday. So I watched everything Thursday, Saturday. So I watched this, but what else was happening when this game was going down? Because I barely remember Indiana getting absolutely demolished. I didn't remember it being that bad. I didn't. So I know Indiana fans and St. Mary's fans can remember it all too well, but I didn't realize it was that.
Woo! Oh, yeah. That messed everybody's modem up. It made major modem damage.
Trayce in that game had 12 points, 5 boards, no fouls, but good God, 82-53. But he's coming back. That's big time news. Indiana could well set up. They could. I'm not there yet, but I saw a little of this going around. Set up as the preseason favorite in the Big Ten because Trayce is coming back in addition to some others. But he's the big piece. He's got to be, in my opinion, preseason first team All-American. I think Trayce has got potential. If you want good value on a preseason National Player of the Year, there'll be other guys that'll be ranked ahead of him. Sheba at the top of that list. I actually think Trayce is capable of winning National Player of the Year.
I'm gonna go with somebody from St. Mary's. I don't know who, but I'm going with somebody from St. Mary's.
Okay. Fair enough, Parrish. But no, that's big time news there. Where do you have Indiana in your rankings? Did you move them because of this, or did you always have them ranked with the idea that Trayce was coming back?
Always had them ranked with the idea that Trayce was coming back. So I've got him 18th right now, but that stacks up as second in the Big Ten behind Michigan. I mean, I've got the top 2 in the Big Ten. Let's just see. No Big Ten teams in the top 10 of the top 25 and 1, but I've got Michigan at 12, Indiana at 18, Purdue at 22, Ohio State at 24, Michigan State at 25.
Okay. Aside from for the listeners, Ryan, the listeners, Trayce is coming back at Indiana. He'll be by far the most important player. Who else do we have there? Race Thompson. Rob Finney's gone. Miller Kopp. Parker Stewart transferred back to Tennessee Martin, which is actually real quick on that. Pretty powerful story. Parker Stewart tragically lost his father, who was the coach of Tennessee Martin. Almost 2 years ago. He played at Indiana last year, and then he's going to go back. He played in Indiana, and he's going to actually finish out his college career at Tennessee Martin, where he began and where he lost his dad. So that was, one of those stories where I thought, man, what a journey he's kind of taken there. Overall, though,
I mean, the one that they're bringing in that I think is just terrific is Jalen Hood-Schifino, who played for Team Thad on the grassroots circuit last summer. You might remember he popped positive COVID and had to miss part of Peach Jam. But I saw him in advance of that, and he's awesome. Like when I first saw him, I think he was listed as a 4-star by most. And I was like, this seems better than that. And he subsequently moved up in various rankings. I believe he's, if not a consensus 5-star, certainly a 5-star in some places right now. I think he's great. I think he'll be fabulous at Indiana. So I really like the roster that Mike Woodson has put together. I think, if Indiana wins a Big Ten title, it won't be that surprising to me.
Last time, let me see here. Last time Indiana won a Big Ten title.
What are you talking? Tom Crean.
16. Tom Crean. I know. So they won this. They won the regular season in 16. They won it in 13 as well. And Indiana has never won a Big Ten tournament title in its history. Never won it. But yeah, because I remember their Big Ten tournament record is like absurdly bad. I can't remember what it is now, but when they lost in the Big Ten tournament, someone had mentioned it or brought it to light, and it was unbelievable how like they hadn't made, what was it? IU fans with the internet, you're going to find me afterward. It's something like Indiana has not played in a Big Ten semi in like 15 years or something like that.
No, I remember this being a thing. Either you said it or somebody else said it, and I was like, it was one of those things that when I heard it, I was like, well, there's no way that can be true. And it was like, oh, it actually is true. It's bananas. Like, I think it was something like this. Hasn't won 2 Big Ten tournament games in the same tournament in like ever, or a million years, or 20 or something.
You're right. Yeah, it was something like that. I want to see if I can get it real quick before because that's just, I mean, that just can't be. It cannot be.
It sounded impossible. Whatever it was, and I think it was something like hadn't won multiple Big Ten tournament games in the same year in a significant amount of time. And I was like, there's just no way that's true.
I got it. Indiana hasn't won at least 2 games in the Big Ten tournament since 2003.
That sounds impossible.
2003, they have not won 2 games in a Big Ten. I want to be clear. They've won more than 2 games in the Big Ten tournament, but in a single Big Ten tournament, they have not won more than 2 games since 2003.
We gotta get them to the Summit League tournament somehow. This is not working out. Can we acknowledge this is not working out?
They won two this year. So they tied the mark. So they haven't won more than 2 since 2003. They tied it when they got 2 this year. But that is just, it's unreal, man.
Maybe we could work out a deal where they play in the Big Ten regular season, but then they play the Summit League tournament. We got to get some tournament victories. This is getting outrageous. This is Indiana basketball, for crying out loud.
So I use Race Thompson, Miller Kopp, Xavier Johnson will be back. Jordan Geronimo will be back. You mentioned Hood Schifino will be in there. And then Malik Reno is coming in addition to Trayce Jackson-Davis. So I don't know if that's the best team in the Big Ten. To me, that is a top 3 team for sure. And we started the pod talking Louisville, talk Indiana. These are a couple of fan bases, a couple of blue blood programs as far as I'm concerned, and they have been toiling a bit, and they will enter into next season. Indiana immediately, Louisville, depending on what they do recruiting-wise, with just some real optimism there. The Hoosiers are overdue for some sustained success and relevance. Trayce Jackson-Davis is a big one, man. I'm all in on him. And he might, when it gets time in October for us to make our preseason predictions, I just think that he clearly made a big jump last season. And I think he's making a great decision to return to college because I think that he will improve his draft stock. He'll get drafted next year and potentially be the best player in America in 2022, 2023.
Yeah. And this is an example, and we can get out of here on this, of 2 things working that are helping Indiana and schools like Indiana. It's name, image, and likeness rights being a reality, and traditional bigs not really having a great value as it pertains to the NBA draft. You know, this is largely why Oscar Tshiebwe is back in school. It's why most people believe Drew Timme will be back in school. Although Drew Timme did shoot it at the combine, apparently. Like, went out in one of these games and went.
Come on back, though. I know.
Well, it's wild. He doesn't shoot from the perimeter at Gonzaga, rarely. And he goes in one combine game, he was 4 or 5 from 3. It sounds like he just said, you know what, I'm shooting. This is what they need to see. I'm going to show it to them.
He also got called for a travel and then I guess turned around and said they're not ready for the sauce. So he might be gone. Well, he might have gotten a first-round promise on that alone. We might have seen a lot Drew Timme.
Well, that is the thing. As awesome as Drew is, there are a lot of people who thinks he moves his feet in ways that shouldn't be allowed. once he catches the basketball, there's a lot of people who think he moves his feet in ways that should not be allowed. So the NBA officials or whoever it is working the combine at least caught him one time doing that. But Armando Bacot back in school, all of these guys 30 years ago would be first-round draft picks and gone, baby, gone. But because there's just not great value, like guys like that now have to, Drew Timme is never going to be in the NBA. I think Trayce Jackson-Davis might never be in the NBA based on, well, he was the 18th pick, guaranteed contract. Now he's on the roster. They're going to have, like, you look at Fred VanVleet coming out of college, and it's like, he's a winner. He can shoot. He can run your team. Yeah, but he's little and he's not a great athlete. So he doesn't get picked. But then he's like, I'll figure it. I'll get there. Just I'm going to be so awesome wherever I'm playing that I keep progressing. And then they go, okay, I had questions, but the guy just keeps playing, keeps doing what he's doing, and so now here he is. Now, what little guards used to have to do, if you had any sort of physical limitations, you were a little small, not quite athletic enough, or at least that was the perception, you'd have to prove after college that you could play in the NBA by going to the G League, going overseas, and just being an undeniable player. Whatever setting you're in, you keep playing. And now traditional bigs are going to have to do that. You're not going to get picked, with few exceptions. You're not going to get picked where you would have been picked 30 years ago because the game's changed so much. Whenever you decide to pursue a professional career, you're probably going to have to take a long road to get where you've always dreamt of going. Doesn't mean they can't get there, but probably going to have to take a longer road than you would have taken 30 years ago. Because 30 years ago, these guys we're talking about, they'd have been picked 4th, 8th, 17th, and 28th. Now it's more like 48, 51, maybe not at all. And when you combine that reality with, hey, you come back to school, make a lot of money, and be the best player on your team. That's the other thing I think gets lost sometimes. There's something awesome about being the best player on a team. Like, have you ever been the best player when you were growing up? Were you ever the best player on a team? Like, I was sometimes the best player on a team that I was on. And that's a lot of fun. It's fun being awesome. And so you want to go play in the G League and just be a guy, or go to the NBA and sit at the end of the bench. You want to come back to college, make a lot of money, and be the best player on your team, one of the best players in the country, play in packed arenas on television. It's just a more attractive option for a lot of these guys. And that has been the story of this offseason when it comes to NBA draft decisions for the most part. We're getting some, I know the system is, to whatever extent it exists, has created some chaos and uncertainty and frustration. But one of the byproducts of it is that we're getting some awesome college basketball players back in school. And Trayce Jackson-Davis is maybe not at the top of that list, but he's close to it.